Welcome into the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Kane Robb. I am the host of the show, a former collegiate football video coordinator, along with recruiting assistant, now here to talk Golden Gophers. And be sure to follow us over on YouTube and hit subscribe. Drop your comments down below. And I really need your questions for an interview we have coming up next week with none other than Ryan Burns, who has all the inside scoops when it comes to Golden Gophers. So please, any questions that you may have for Ryan Burns, drop them in the comments on our YouTube page and be sure to subscribe. Speaking of subscribing and following, wherever you get your podcasts, be sure to find Locked On Golden Gophers, give it a follow, and give it a 5-star review. And once again, thank you for listening to Locked On Golden Gophers. Today's show is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is bringing you more props, more lines, and more numbers when it comes to sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. So today we're talking about why. Why am I ready to have my heart broken when it comes to Minnesota Golden Gophers in this transfer portal? Now, one would think, Kane, how can you have that outlook and how can you be like that when we've already brought in both Dawson Garcia and Talon Cooper to the Gophers from the portal? Like, that's just not right. That's just not fair. You're right. I am in the wrong there. But you know what? Once you've tasted the finer things in life, I feel like you don't want to just let that go. And we have the opportunity to potentially even build a better, fuller, more complete roster when it comes to the Golden Gophers basketball program. And just seeing guys like Kerwin Walton in the transfer portal, I know that if we strike out, it's just going to hurt. It's going to have that extra sting to it. And I'm just starting to prepare myself now because you know what? Things aren't looking good. Now, what am I talking about? I am talking about the fact that we still have 3 scholarship spots left on our Golden Gophers basketball team. It looked extremely promising when we were in conversations with Josiah Strong, Kerwin Walton, Michael Jones, Hunter McIntosh. I mean, prior, you had Nick Honor, Isaiah Thompson. I mean, the list goes on. And those guys slowly started to commit to other teams. And we slowly started to get happier and happier and honed in on very specific players. And that was setting ourselves up to be hurt, which we might very well experience. Now, speaking of Hunter McIntosh, he has officially found his new home. He is committed to Las Vegas, Reno. So he will not be joining the Golden Gopher program, obviously. Now, it had been rumored he had narrowed it down to 3 and we weren't in that top 3. I was hesitant because I wasn't really sure of the source. But alas, he has found his home and is not here. And that jumps us into Josiah Strong, who has been rumored to be down to his final 5 schools. And those schools are Oklahoma, Cal, Colorado State, Wake Forest, and a return to Illinois State. Now, again, this is the same source that broke that Hunter McIntosh had narrowed down to his top 3. So maybe there's some more validity now. Maybe we can start to trust said source. Now, I haven't talked to Josiah Strong specifically about the Gophers, nor do I intend to. That's his business, and he's still making his decision. But I have had conversations with him, and you know what? I'm not fully ready to rule it out, but I will believe if he has ruled it out, that he's done it because it's not the best option for him and what he's looking for. Josiah Strong is an extremely talented player, but he's smart off the court too. So if he doesn't think that he'll be a fit or it'll be the fit for him and what he is looking for in his last year or 2 of eligibility, then if that's not the Gophers, it makes sense for him not to come here because we don't want him to hate it or to be miserable or dread it, and that could affect the locker room. And I'm not saying he would, not at all. I've seen the kid in his high school days ball out. I've seen him play with other studs who went on to the D1 level that absolutely led their teams, and he contributed all that and then some on those high school teams. He wasn't a drama queen. He wasn't a diva. He was a great player, a fantastic player to watch, to be around, and I wish him nothing but the best. I still hope. I hold out hope that Josiah Strong comes, but it's looking more and more unlikely, which is why that hope sets us up for heartbreak. And I feel like we've all been there. We all know what that feels like. So you pair that, and then you pair the news that Kerwin Walton, who has finally entered the transfer portal, nearing the very end of the deadline to be able to put your name out there and still be immediately eligible. He officially did it. We talked about it. We talked about how excited we would be for him to come home. We talked about how he's the perfect starting two guard for this roster, how his game complements our roster. We've talked about it all, folks. I know you were here, you listened, we've talked about it. Well, 247 Sports has officially crystal balled Kerwin Walton's transfer landing spot, and they believe, they're fairly certain, that he's going to head over to Creighton. Now, Creighton also just brought in one of the best current transfer portal entries as well. So my hope is, with that new addition, maybe, just maybe, he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to be the second news to break for Creighton. But I guess he would be the same thing here as Dustin Garcia and Talon Cooper both broke here, and that news was huge. But I believe the fanfare would be just as wild and just as loud if Kerwin Walton did make that decision to come home, and I've already stressed about how his game fits with our roster. See, this is where we're setting ourselves up to get heartbroken because no matter how unrealistic, no matter the warning signs of, a fairly confident crystal ball pick from guys who do it all the time and are right a lot of the time, but I'm still holding on hope that Kerwin Walton comes home. If you're with me, just prepare yourself. Prepare yourself to be hurt, but at the same time, if he doesn't choose here, you can't be mad. You can't go at the player. People have been extremely confident in the age of social media and calling out people that they don't know anything about, especially in sports, on decisions that don't affect them whatsoever. Kerwin Walton's a basketball player, and if he decides that the Gophers aren't his fit, if Josiah Strong decides the Gophers aren't his fit, we accept it and we move on, folks. Now, the final one I want to bring up is Michael Jones. He stated the three schools that are showing the most interest in him are Alabama, Northwestern, and Stanford. But the part I want to stress about this is that doesn't mean we're out of the running for him. This doesn't mean we're not being considered. In fact, to me, the fact that it's stressed that those are the schools that are showing the most interest in him, to me, this says that if we want Michael Jones here, we need to step our game up. It means we need to show more love, step up him as a priority, and show him why he should come to this program. That is what I read in that headline. So I do believe we could still be in the running there. But again, that's three options after a handful of them have already committed that we're all interested in the Gophers that have taken visits here. Three options remain that seemingly may have already ruled us out. That one hurts, but we gotta still be happy. We gotta look forward to the future because we have a lot of promise, and we've already discussed that too. And I just can't wait for this season to come up. But we got to fill these final three scholarship opportunities. We're going to talk about a couple names that maybe could fill them if we can't land any of these players. But at this point, even if we do manage to bring in one or two of these guys, it's going to be a process. It's going to be time consuming as far as learning the system, getting the culture. I mean, the culture is established, but these new guys still have to see what it's all about. So, all of this hype, all of this excitement, and then paired with maybe these guys aren't heading over here, it's gotten me to calm down a little bit. It's calmed down the excitement, take a deep breath. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. So now it's putting me into a more realistic, the future is promising. Our young guys are promising, our transfers are promising. But it doesn't mean we're going to be, I was in here like, we're going to be in contention in the Big Ten. Sign me up. If we get Kerwin Walton, that's it. It's a wrap. But even if we get Kerwin Walton or if we get Josiah Strong, even one of these guys comes over here, it's still going to be a process. Enjoy it. Enjoy the roster. Enjoy the build. Enjoy something we haven't had in a while as far as the national interest of top players. But don't set yourself up for heartbreak. That is the message today. Next, we're going to talk about a couple guys that could take some of those final scholarships. But first, we need to talk about our friends at BetOnline. You see, BetOnline is where you need to go when it comes to sporting information and trying to figure out what the trends in action are when it comes to live sports betting. It doesn't even need to be live sports betting. In fact, it could be futures bets. Who do you think is going to win the national title next year? They have those numbers for you over at BetOnline. The Heisman winner next year, they have those numbers for you at BetOnline. The Wild's odds at coming back and winning this first round series. They got it all for you over at BetOnline. So be sure to go over to BetOnline using your mobile device or your computer to check out the latest trends in action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. So again, thank you so much for making Locked On Golden Gophers your first listen. I truly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please go over and head and do that. Again, we are speaking with Ryan Burns next week, Gopher Insider. And I want to know what questions you have for him. What do you want me to ask for you, the people, the Gophers fans, the community? What do you want me to ask Ryan? Because I will take a look at all those questions and find a way to get those questions answered. Now, let's talk about filling those final two spots when it comes to Gophers basketball program. So there are two names that keep popping up lately. Gopher Hole has mentioned them. A couple of random, not insider Twitter accounts, but just some kind of groundbreakers as far as the programs that these players used to play on have at least spoken about it a little bit. And so we're going to bring up two names in particular. The first one being Taurus Samuels, who played at Dartmouth. And what we should know about Taurus Samuels, he's a point guard. He's actually visiting campus. He's coming to Minnesota to visit with the coaching staff and learn what the Gophers are all about here, what our culture is, and get that one-on-one visit. And that's happening this week on Thursday or Friday. He's an Ivy League player from Dartmouth, as I said. And I realize it's Dartmouth, not Dartmouth, but you read it, you see it, you say it. Dartmouth basketball team, Ivy League. He averaged 9.4 points per game last year, 2.1 rebounds per game, and 1.7 assists per game in the Ivy League. Now, unfortunately, looking at the quick stat book, not only just this year, but years prior, he is not a very good three-point shooter. Three-point shooting is something we still need to add to this team. In fact, I see it as one of our biggest needs is three-point shooting, and he does not contribute there, but he would be a valued point guard depth, especially off the bench. He could help run the offense. He can set others up. He can get his own basket. So, I mean, you can't overvalue having a backup point guard. Look at the NBA. Tyus Jones is the best backup point guard in the league behind Ja Morant, who's one of the better point guards in the entire league. But Tyus Jones is not overvalued. In fact, he might be undervalued. So the fact that we're looking into guards that help expand our bench and that can make it so when our starter Talon Cooper isn't on the floor, that it isn't as much of a hit, that's super important. It's super helpful, and it's how people develop winners. So I think Taurus Samuels is an intriguing option. You know, you would hope that he could shoot a little bit better, but the bench depth and the value that he brings, it's still quite a lot, especially having 3 roster spots, scholarship spots open. I think he would be a great addition. Another one in a similar vein is the transfer from Merrimack and Mikey Watkins. Now, the Gophers have reached out, and he has heard from not only Minnesota, but also Georgia Southern and Appalachia State. Now, the Gophers are clearly quite the quality difference when it comes to Gophers, Georgia Southern, and Appalachian State. But what is he looking for as a player? Does he want to be the guy, want to be able to be the leading scorer, be the main piece that an offense is built around? Because if that's so, he's not going to be that here with the Gophers. If he's looking for that, Georgia Southern and Appalachian State might be perfect options for him, because they might be like, here's the reins, take them, run with them. Whereas the Gophers, if he's looking for competition, if he's looking for playing at one of the best levels in Division I college basketball, one of the best conferences, one of the most competitive levels, conferences in Division I basketball, then the Gophers would be a no-brainer. Now, on top of that, he averaged 9.7 points per game for Merrimack, 3.4 rebounds, and 4.6 assists this past season. He did it all. He was a jack of all trades, and that's encouraging. Now, he shot the 3 ball a little bit better than Taurus Samuels, who had mentioned, but again, he's not shooting the lights out. But he was 3rd on the team this past season in scoring when Merrimack College played Gonzaga. Gonzaga, one of the best teams in the country this past season. Gonzaga, who has consistently been competing for a championship, especially as of recent. 3rd leading scorer on the team, on a team, now they struggled to score, but he did put up 8 points. I'll give him that. You're playing on a school that looks like they have little to no chance in the beginning of the season, going up against one of the best contenders in college basketball. And he wasn't afraid. He put up his shots. He contributed points. I like to see it. And then you look at fellow Big Ten opponent, Rutgers, who he also played this past season, and he led the team in scoring with 12 points against Rutgers, who was a fairly solid team. They were in the play-in game to get into the official first round and lost. But again, fairly solid team. Rutgers held their own. So, you know, he's seen that tougher competition. He's held his own, and I think he could be a good piece here. I would love to bring him in. He's actually the name that pops out more to me of these two, but either one of them would be great contributors, especially with 3 scholarships open and the transfer portals and their interests officially closing more and more each and every day. You're not seeing more people enter the transfer portal right now, and if you do, they're not going to be immediately eligible anymore. So these conversations and the clock is ticking. It's time now to figure out how we're going to close this roster off for the upcoming season and start to get to work. That's what we got for you today on Basketball Front, but we're not done talking Gophers sports. We need to talk Gophers hockey because some big news broke this week, and we're going to talk about that next. So, again, thank you for listening to the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, be sure to look up Locked On Golden Gophers, give us a follow, and give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. It helps others in the community find our show. And the more we row, the more we grow, and we're going to build this thing up together. So, this is a show where we always continue to row no matter the results. And I appreciate each and every one of you. So let's talk about big news, big news in the Gopher hockey landscape. And that is that Ryan Johnson is returning. That is right, folks. Ryan Johnson is returning to the Gophers once more. He's not making the jump to the league. He's coming back to the Gophers. He's going to be a huge veteran leadership presence on the Gophers team. And we're stoked. We're excited. We're happy. Great defensive player. You just can't you can't be more excited that Ryan Johnson is coming back. You got Nyes coming back. You got Ryan Johnson coming back. You got Lacombe coming back. That is promising. That is beautiful. Let's keep contending. But there was some negative news as well. We'd mentioned last week when Braz hit the transfer portal and Chaz Lucius signed his pro contract, which seemed like out of nowhere. And I had mentioned, you know what, I'm kind of scared that if there was something going on behind the scenes, what if his brother decommits or rescinds his commitment? Well, folks, that happened. That fear that I mentioned last week has become a reality after Chaz Lucius signed his pro contract, giving up his remaining 3 years of eligibility. And you know, we were a little worried, but most people didn't seem to be too worried. I'd mentioned on Twitter, I'd mentioned on the pod that, you know, I just really hope this doesn't mean Cruz is out too. And then a speaker of the family or speaker for the family announced that it was true. It was true. And now reading the tea leaves, we are seeing it's not, everything wasn't golden with the Golden Gophers. Cruz Lucius reopened his commitment. He reopened his recruitment, and he hasn't picked a new school yet. But he was a top recruit for the Gophers. Not our highest recruit in this incoming class, but still a high recruit. Expected to go in the second or third round of this upcoming NHL draft. Would have been a great guy to have on the roster. So now that's 10 players that are leaving the Gophers from last year, and now we lost a recruit who had committed. I'm starting to get a little worried, you know, because I've already told you, maybe I should stop speaking my fears into existence, but I've already told you that Logan Cooley, our number 1 recruit, who is likely going to be a top 3 pick in the NHL draft this year, has mentioned he would absolutely love to try and take the shot at making the jump right away. Making the jump from the U18 USA hockey team, where he's been playing majority of his minutes right now, getting most of his experience right now, jumping straight from that to the NHL. He's committed to the Gophers, but he doesn't have to play. If the team thinks he's ready and he is ready to take that jump, he can. You know, it's got me worried, and I'm not gonna lie. Then you lose Cruz Lucius. If we lose Logan Cooley, yes, I'm excited that Nyes is back. Yes, I'm excited for the returners, but we've lost Tristan Braz. We've lost Brinkman. We've lost Crookshank. We've lost a vast amount of people. And it's just starting to get a little bit worrying because it was looking so promising. One of the best, the number 1 recruiting class, which we still might be, on top of a ton of guys with experience that are returning from a team that was just in the Frozen Four. And now we've had multiple transfers. We've lost a recruit. Chaz signed with the pros. Blake McLaughlin signed with the pros. I mean, folks, it's a little concerning. It's not don't set off the panic alarms. Don't be SpongeBob in the fiery room trying to blow out the fire. Like, we didn't forget our name, folks. We're still here. We're still going to be good. We still have a lot of promise, but there is slight concern as we grow towards the NHL draft now. We're not going to lose anymore to the transfer portal, clearly. Again, I've mentioned that window has closed, but that Logan Cooley piece is major to me. And I think if he makes the jump right away, we take a big hit. I don't think it takes us out of contention, but it takes a major hit. So hopefully he is back with us. I am curious about Cruz Lucius, if how we handled Chaz's injury is what pushed that family away, but we'll never know. I'm sure maybe something will come up eventually, but we most likely will not know. So that's Tristan Braz left and officially transferred to Denver, the national champions of this year. Kirkshank transferred to St. Cloud, and Brinkman transferred to Notre Dame. They've all transferred to quality programs, you know. But we're going to be okay. I just wanted to emphasize there is slight concern, but let's talk about what we will have, what our roster is looking like. Our roster is looking like we're going to have potentially Nyes, Logan Cooley, and Jimmy Snuggerud. They could play on a line together. Like, talk about talent right there. Then other forwards and centers on the roster include Brodzinski. You got Aaron Huglin, Rhett Pitlick, Mason Nevers, Jackson Nelson, Connor Kurth. Like, we still have a lot of potential in the forwards and center positions. And they could score high. I mean, we could be a high-scoring offense, not going to lie there. And on the defensive front, we still have a ton of talent too. Brock Faber, Lacombe, Ryan Johnson, Max Coaster, Ryan Chelsea, who is coming also from that U.S. development team. I mean, we've got Logan Cooley, Jimmy Snuggerud, Ryan Chelsea, all coming still from that U.S. U18 team that have been balling out. And then, I mean, you've got the Middlestop brothers coming in too as recruits. You've got Carl Fish coming back who could contribute as well. We're waiting on the final word from Sammy Walker, who could be another addition we bring back in that would help our scoring front. But we still need to be on the lookout at least, if Logan Cooley makes the jump. That's where we're at with Gophers Hockey right now. The season is still promising. There's a little bit of concern. The rosy-colored glasses are off, and we need to, not only for basketball, but for hockey, the rosy-colored glasses are off, and we need to start taking a realistic outlook on what our future looks like. We've definitely taken some hits, but you know what? The return of Nyes, the return of Lacombe, and the return of Ryan Johnson are major. So let's get excited. Let's get ready to run it back. Let's get ready to move forward to the national championship because we still have that type of talent. I'm excited. You should be too. That's going to do it for us today at the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Please, oh, please drop questions for me to ask Ryan Burns in the comments below at YouTube. Be sure to subscribe while you're there. I appreciate everything you do for us. You're the greatest fans in D1. And you know what? Let's show the rest of the Big Ten, the rest of all of the Power 5 schools. Let's show them why we are the best fans in college athletics. So be sure to subscribe. Be sure to check us out on Twitter and drop your questions below. I appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. Let's get this thing going. This is a show where we always continue to grow. This is Kane Robb signing out. I'll see you tomorrow.